Hi there! Now that 2024 has come to an end, we move on to bigger and better things in 2025. But before we get excited for the future, it's time to take a look back at the year in review and discuss my favorite films of the year. I thought this was a great year for movies. It wasn't quite as top-heavy as 2023 or 2022, but I still found a lot to love. 10 movies felt like I was leaving too many out, so I'm going to be going through my top 20 films of 2024. I also want to point out that I have not seen The Brutalist yet, which I'm assuming I will like, but it's not on this list yet because, you know, I haven't seen it.
It looks good.
Okay, let's get started.
Number 20.
Alex Garland's Civil War is far less a political commentary on modern-day American politics than the title leads on. In fact, it isn't political at all. This seems to be the biggest criticism of Garland, the fact that he isn't actually saying anything about the current state of American politics. But is that really a fault of the movie, or is it just not the movie that people wanted it to be? Alex Garland undoubtedly has something to say, it just isn't what people expected him to say. This movie is about journalism and an exploration of how journalists are trained to remain objective, even in the face of truly horrific events. He explores the moral complexities in the state of journalism today, which I actually found very fascinating. The entire cast of characters are great and the whole movie is riveting, but one scene in particular involving Jesse Plemons' character was the standout. The direction is masterful with breathtaking imagery and scope. While I don't mind the in-movie politics not being a reflection of real life, I do wish Garland at least showed something to give an idea why this fight is even happening.
Number 19.
In the 2021 film Pig, Michael Sarnowski took a premise seemingly to be another typical revenge story starring an unhinged Nicolas Cage and instead made something completely different. A quiet, intimate, thought-provoking character study about a man who just wants to be understood. In his follow-up film A Quiet Place Day One, he similarly subverts everything expected to come from a prequel to an established horror franchise. There's no big military invasion combating a massive army of aliens with mandated set pieces every 5 minutes, though the tension is still very much there. Instead of going with the bigger is better approach, he strips everything down to an emotional and charming character study about a person looking for something that has virtually nothing to do with the end of the world at all, and more of a personal human journey. And after watching both his 2021 film Pig and his 2024 film A Quiet Place Day One, it all just makes so much sense.
Oh my god, it was so good.
18.
Yorgos Lanthimos just gave us 3 new Jesse Plemons little freak characters all in one movie. An anthology with 3 separate stories showcasing 3 different kinds of kindness. Hilariously disgusting and anticlimactic, but in that fascinating and sadistic Yorgos Lanthimos way. It was a good time.
17.
Ryosuke Hamaguchi's Evil Does Not Exist is about a group of developers coming into a peaceful town to set up glamping sites for tourists, which in turn will cause harm to the area's ecosystems. Most of the film feels like a documentary, especially with how real and raw all the performances are. But then every shot is basically the most beautiful thing you've ever seen in your life. I was fully on board with the message of the film and perfectly fine with that just being it, but then the ending happens and I start rethinking what the entire movie even meant in the first place.
16.
Legend Ridley Scott once again gives the people what they want. Old school, big budget blockbuster filled with massive action set pieces and intense political and familial drama. There is nothing cooler than the Roman Empire and guys sitting around talking about politics. Denzel nonchalantly gives another all-timer performance. It doesn't hit as hard as the first Gladiator, but who gives a shit? This is 2024 and I'm hungry for some real cinema. It was incredible.
15.
Zemeckis is back. I mean, this might be surprising because this movie kinda got horrible reviews, but I loved this movie. For as corny and as sloppily digital looking as it is, I found this to be incredibly moving and charmed me in ways that I never expected. On paper, I feel like none of this should work, but somehow all of the emotions hit me so hard I'm kind of stunned. Josh Hartnett delivers one of my favorite performances of the year in M. Night Shyamalan's Trap. Holy shit, M. Night and cinematographer Syambu Muktapram craft every shot like it's the last shot they'll ever compose. It's thrilling and suspenseful, but this movie is also super funny and full of heart, and Josh Hartnett's cheesy smile nails the tone perfectly. The best parts of the movie are when he's just trying to be a good dad, and all of this happening in a movie where Shyamalan himself is putting his real-life daughter on a massive stage to live out her dream. I'll admit it got me feeling emotional. Also, such a fun ending and just a fun time all around in the movies.
13.
A Real Pain was directed by Jesse Eisenberg. Absolutely brilliant screenplay that explores two tonal opposite personalities that anyone can relate to on some level through both characters. Kieran Culkin's character is one of the most real and honest interpretations of struggling with mental health I've ever seen. Both performances are unbelievable, but my biggest takeaway was Jesse Eisenberg as a filmmaker being not only interested in exploring deep questions that don't have answers, but capturing the emotions that come as a response in the old-fashioned way, which is letting the camera linger on an actor's face while they deliver magic. So beautiful! Now, I know everybody's already said everything there is to say about Dune Part 2. It's like the biggest movie of the year for film nerds. And I wasn't even like as high on this movie as most people are, I think. But even still, it's one of the best movies of the year for me. I just felt giddy watching a massive studio movie made with this much care and precision. Austin Butler is electric. Put him in everything. I actually think Austin Butler might be a generational talent. He has an indescribable presence that I don't think anyone can replicate. I can just tell he's like a total weirdo freak in real life, which those kind of people make the best actors. He's very quickly becoming the actor I'm most interested in watching.
11. The Wild Robot.
The Wild Robot, directed by Chris Sanders. The Wild Robot is so gosh darn wholesome and wonderful.
My heart could barely take all the loveliness.
It's a simple story that's been done before, but not told in such a cozy manner. It never panders to the audience because it respects us too much, and it never stoops down to shitty little kid humor. The score by Chris Bowers goes way too hard. I'm going to be watching this movie for many, many years. DreamWorks, this is what you need to do. I cried.
10.
Love Lies Bleeding. Bodybuilding body horror. So f***ing metal. Kristen Stewart is my favorite working actress right now. So talented. She can do no wrong. She's so good in this, I can't breathe. If I think about it too long, I'll get emotional, so I have to move on. I have to move on. Next movie.
9.
Hundreds of Beavers. The amount of time and planning it must have taken to make this movie is insane. Everything is so meticulously thought out. It's the most creative thing I've seen in a really long time. It's just non-stop gags the entire runtime, and it keeps getting better and better as it goes along. This seems like the type of movie that would run out of steam after a while, maybe a good 30-minute short or something, but the way it just keeps you engaged and ramps up everything is such an accomplishment. It pays homage to the silent era slapstick comedies while also feeling really modern and fresh. It just seemed like a bunch of dudes having a great time making a movie, and I loved it. This is an astonishing achievement.
8.
Jane Schoenbrunn was able to make something so realistic and intimate and emotional while simultaneously crafting some of the most unsettling imagery I've ever seen. This is incredibly innovative filmmaking, and it's not only horrifying, but equally as moving. Total insanity. Oh, yes.
7.
Total f***ing blast. Sean Baker has done it again. Honora is a New York stripper who gets swept off her feet by a spoiled brat of a Russian oligarch. It completely takes a turn about a third of the way through, and it just becomes a straight up comedy. But like one that makes other comedies look so bad because of how well made this one is. It's super entertaining, and it's kind of heartbreaking too. I loved all the characters. I felt like I could watch another 6 hours of them running around getting into problems. Holy shit.
6.
Hands down, the best sound design of the year. Demi Moore is brilliant, and Dennis Quaid is hilarious. Beautifully disgusting, slimy, and deranged, while also being over-the-top camp comedy with all-timer body horror monster action. What a picture! I couldn't stop thinking about this movie for like a month after I saw it. It's so much fun. It's not that deep, it's not that subtle, it's actually actively unsubtle. It's just a fun time at the movies filled with surprises. I recommend it to everyone. Did you see it? No. What?
5.
Megalopolis was my most anticipated movie of the year. It's Coppola's most personal, an artist struggling with the passage of time, and his most ambitious. He tries to cram so many things into this thing to the point that it can feel overwhelming. But everything explored is wildly interesting, specifically with the question of jumping into the future or preserving the past. Not everything is answered in the end. In fact, I don't think anything is answered in the end, but the journey there is filled with beautiful imagery and wacky characters in Joel Schumacher Batman-esque cityscapes performing ridiculous dialogue. It's not really pushing the boundaries of cinema like I expected. Most of the visual techniques are things that have been used since the beginning of the medium, but that doesn't mean they aren't extremely well executed. Still, Coppola is able to give this thing such a unique visual style that it feels so fresh and so unlike any other movie. And the movie ends with an optimistic look at the future of humanity. Humans will always find a way to fix what they've done. I thought I had my list complete, but I just watched this film last night after Warner Brothers dumped it on Max for whatever stupid reason, and it just blew me away. Clint Eastwood is 94 years old at the end of his career, and he just delivered another stone-cold masterpiece like it was nothing. There is no one like Clint. I thought Josh Hartnett in Trap was my favorite performance of the year. I think I have to switch. I think I have to switch my vote now. The acting. I think it's Nicholas Hoult in this. I mean, holy shit. Absolutely mesmerizing filmmaking here. Warner Brothers truly just doesn't get it.
4.
George Miller showing every other filmmaker how to direct action with some energy. This had me on the edge of my seat the entire film. Insane set pieces that rival Fury Road, which is some of the best action ever put to film. It's not as revolutionary as Fury Road, and yeah, it has that digital sheen to it, but
My God.
it's heavy-hearted and earnest without even needing much dialogue.
Good
The
Lord.
Anya Taylor-Joy and Tom Burke stuff blew my mind, and this is Chris Hemsworth's career best work.
So good.
It's the perfect precursor to Fury Road and elevates that film and itself to heights previously unimaginable. Cinema.
2.
The Beast. A doomed romance from 3 different time periods, Bertrand Bonello crafts a melodrama about how the waiting for a catastrophe to happen can become the catastrophe itself, and how people express and suppress their emotions, and how societal factors and technological shifts can bring out their humanity. I found it to be profoundly moving and thought-provoking, and told in such a unique way. I don't want to say too much more about the movie. I just want you to watch the movie and experience it for yourself and let it mean to you what it's gonna mean to you. Cinema.
Challengers.
Mukti Pram's camera work is f***ing exhilarating. This movie is so tense and so good, and probably my favorite ending of the last decade. Old school sports drama filled with a love triangle with the greatest character dynamics of the year. Really clever back and forth non-linear script with little callbacks that aren't overtold, and every little expression or glance is filled with so many layers. Mukti Pram's camera work is some of my favorite of the decade. There's a shot of the back of Zendaya's head that had me saying yes to myself like I accomplished something. The final sequence is the greatest piece of cinema I've seen all year. I was locked in. There's a point where the viewer becomes the tennis ball and you get hit around the court by both the guys. It's remarkable. Extremely innovative, immediately went to the top of my 2024 list, and it never got topped. Also the music. And that will do it for my top 20 of 2024. All right, so anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Yeah, let me know what your favorites of the year were, what your least favorites were. If you disagree with me, just let me know in the comments. I'm gonna try to reply to them. Okay, bye.